All right. Hi, my name is Dami Pelaz, and we are going to go over fundamental elements of behavior change, which is on the BACB 4th edition task list, section D. And my name is Dami Pelaz. I'm going to read the disclaimer very quickly. That way we can run through this. ABA Exam Academy was created by and for students to earn their BCBA, BCABA certification. Most of the leaders and participants are not a BCBA, BCABA at this time. These meetings are meant to have active discussions, to collaborate, ask questions, and provide helpful suggestions to better understand the BACB 4th edition task list concepts. Due to this, it is important to know that all viewers and participants are responsible to verify the accuracy of the information being provided in order to successfully prepare for the big exam. Okay, so ethical considerations are: please refrain from sharing BCBA, BCABA test questions, refrain from sharing any type of paid resources or identifiable client information, and if you're sharing any open resources, peer-reviewed article, or books, please make sure to give credit to the author. In the ABA Exam Academy, because we are in this field, we have to act in a professional and ethical manner at all times. So we have 4 rules. Make sure to mute your microphones if you are not speaking. Guys, that does not mean mute your microphone at all times. Just if you're not speaking, just mute your microphones. That way we don't have any background noise. Number 2 is allow the leader and all participants a turn to speak. Number 3, make sure to be respectful to others and refrain from using any inappropriate language. And number 4, as always, have fun. So we're going to go over D20 and D21 really quickly, which is basically D20 is NCR and D21 is DRs, Differential Reinforcement. Okay, so like I said, D20. Here are the page numbers on Mayer and Cooper, which are the 2 resources that I used. So if you guys want to write that down, feel free. Mostly I used Cooper, but I did go back to Mayer and take a look to compare and contrast the information. Okay, are you guys ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay, great. I like to hear something. Thank you. Okay, anyone, what does NCR stand for? These are very
Non-Contingent Reinforcement.
perfect. Okay, non-contingent reinforcement. Perfect. What is NCR? And I have fill in the blanks here. So, and blank, I mean, if you guys could want to tell me in your own words first, that would be great. And then we can just read out the definition. Does anybody want to say what NCR is in their own words?
Isn't it an antecedent intervention?
Yeah. So an antecedent intervention for what?
It provides reinforcement without having anyone earn it, just to give it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's do
based on time.
An antecedent intervention in which stimuli with known reinforcing properties are delivered on a blank or blank schedule. What is it?
Time.
Interval, fixed interval?
Fixed interval, and what else?
Fixed. It's a fixed time.
Okay, so it's fixed time or variable time schedule, independent of the learner's behavior. So like you said, it's separate. Okay, now NCR uses 3 distinct procedures. What are they? Does anyone know?
Positive reinforcement.
Okay, that's one.
Negative reinforcement. Automatic reinforcement.
Perfect. Great job. Who's this?
L.
Nice job. Very good.
Thank you.
Does anybody have questions about this NCR before we move on? Okay. Now we're going to be going over using NCR effectively. So there's—
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Jamie, can we go back to that slide?
Yes.
And what would be an example automatic reinforcement?
Does anybody have any ideas for automatic reinforcement for NCR?
I guess if a student needed, if the function of the behavior was some sort of automatic reinforcement from a sensory object, you would provide them access to that sensory object.
That's a good example. I like that.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody have any other example they want to share? That was great, though. That was a great example. Okay, so using NCR effectively. 6 ways to use NCR effectively are. So there's 6 different ways. Okay. Since I don't hear anyone, let's see if I can have 6 different people. Oh, I have 7 here. Why should I have 7? Okay, so 6 different people help me out with reading them. Okay, number 1 is what? Anyone?
Enhancing effectiveness.
All right, number 2.
Functional behavior assessment.
Number 3.
Emphasizing NCR.
Great job participating. Number 4.
Time-based NCR schedules.
Great. Number 5.
Setting time-based schedules.
Number 6.
Setting terminal criteria.
And number 7.
Considerations for using NCR.
Great job, guys. All right, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have you guys read it again because now we're gonna go over another chart, which is advantages and disadvantages. I'll read the first one for you guys. So advantages, the first one is NCR is easier to apply than other positive reduction techniques, which require monitoring student behavior for the contingent delivery of the reinforcer. Does anybody want to read this, the second one?
NCR help create a positive learning environment, which is always desirable during treatment.
Great job. All right, let's move on to the next advantage, which is right here.
A package treatment that includes NCR with extinction may reduce extinction-induced response bursts.
Great job. Thank you. Number 4 for advantages.
Chance pairings of appropriate behavior and NCR delivery of a stimuli with known reinforcing properties could strengthen and maintain those desirable behaviors.
Wonderful. All right, now we're going to move on to disadvantages. I'll read the first one and then I'll have 2 participants. Free access to NCR stimuli may reduce motivation to engage in adaptive behavior. All right, anybody want to read the second one?
Chance pairings of problem behavior and NCR delivery of stimuli with known reinforcing properties could strengthen the problem behavior.
Okay, and then the last one?
NCR escape.
Perfect. All right, does anybody want to go over this or have any questions on this? It's pretty broken down between advantages and disadvantages, and it is on page 492 of Cooper. If you guys want to take a look at it. All right, you want to move on? Okay. All right, so now we're going to move on to D21, which is use differential reinforcement, which is DRO, DRA, DRI, DRL, and DRH. So Mayor is strictly chapter 28. It's all over chapter 28. That is all they talk about on chapter 28. But on Cooper, it is everywhere. I did not have space to write all the pages because it was so much. So what I did was every slide that I did, I just put where I got the information from, because if I listed it here, it would be beyond this page. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, first let's start with DR. What does DR stand for?
Differential
Differential
reinforcement.
reinforcement.
Perfect. Differential reinforcement. And what is DR? A procedure that involves what?
Reinforcement contingent on the target behavior. Oh, never mind. Hold on.
On the behavior other than, on alternative behavior other than the target behavior.
On the occurrence of a behavior other than the what? You said it, Rita.
Target behavior.
Target behavior. Problem behavior, target behavior, same thing. And is a long one. And blank for the problem behavior.
Is it something extinction?
Mm-hmm. Withholding reinforcement extinction. Perfect. All right. And we're going to do DRO continued. What are the 4 DRL subtypes?
DRI, DRA, DRH, DRL.
DRO. This is specifically DRO. There's 4 DRO subtypes. Okay. The 4 DRO subtypes are split in half, which is interval and momentary. So it's FIDRO, VIDRO, FMDRO, and VMDRO. So if you guys want to look into that, this is something new to me, so I did not break it down, but if you want, look it up on Cooper, and you will find more information on these 4 subtypes of DRO. So this is specific to DRO, okay? Does anybody know any more information on this that they want to share? Or is this new to everyone?
No, I could share some information because I'm pretty sure I was exposed to this and used it without kind of knowing.
Okay,
But
good.
I had a DRO written for one of my students, and it started off as a fixed interval, so it was every 3 minutes. And then once he became a little bit more competent with that, in order to prevent him from ratio strain, or we made it where he rolled a dice from 1 to 6, and so before we would start the timer, instead of just having the timer go off every 3 minutes, we would roll dice, and it would be from anything from 1 to 6 minutes. So it went to a variable interval DRO.
Great example. So you basically started with one and then you moved on to another until
Correct.
they became, they were able to maintain it.
Mm-hmm. And it helped prevent from just being used to that 3 minutes, so, and something was always unexpected because, there were times where he only had to refrain from engaging in behavior for 1 to 2 minutes, but and then other times where he had to switch it up and he had to, refrain from engaging that in behavior for 6 minutes. So it really
That's post reinforcement,
have control.
right?
I'm sorry, you said post reinforcement, what?
Is that the post reinforcement pause because he was responding and then he was pausing to respond? Is that what
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it seems like. All right, does anybody want to provide any other example? That was a great example though. What's your name?
Leisha.
Leisha, thank you so much for participating. All right, if we're good, we can move on to DRA. What does DRA stand for?
Differential Reinforcement of Alternative Behavior.
Perfect. All right, and then what is DRA? What does it do? You guys can say it in your own words if you don't, we can do the fill in the blank later. If you feel comfortable, we could do it. Okay, you guys want to do the fill in the blank first? Okay, used as a what? Used as a blank, the potential reinforcer is presented.
Isn't it something functional communication? I mean, it is an antecedent base, and it's also it goes with functional communication.
Yeah, it is mostly used for functional communication, yes. But what is DRA? What is the definition in your own words?
So DRA is it's used when a alternative behavior to the target behavior is emitted. Then DRA, the client will be reinforced.
Perfect. Okay, so used as a control condition, the potential reinforcer is presented contingent on occurrences of a what? You said it.
Alternative
behavior.
Desirable alternative to the blank.
To the target behavior.
Target behavior. Perfect.
I hate to interrupt, but back on the DRO with the interval and momentary, it has nothing to do with the pause.
Right. I wanted to say that too.
It's about giving a reinforcement at the end of either a specific amount of time or at the end of a momentary time for when the learner is not doing the behavior other than the one that you're targeting. So he's not really doing anything to earn that reinforcement. That's why it's differential reinforcement. He's just getting reinforcement for not doing the behavior that you're targeting. So there's no pause.
Right.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. All right, I just noticed that I skipped a slide for DRO, but I'm gonna finish DRA and then I'll go back to DRO, okay? There's just one more thing on DRA. So DRA has alternative behavior and challenging behavior that are part of the what?
Same response class?
Perfect, yes, same response class. Okay, so it's DRA specific, where the challenging behavior is part of the same response class. So that's a really important information right here. Okay, let's go back to DRO because I just noticed that I skipped that slide. What does DRO stand for?
Differential reinforcement for other behavior.
Perfect, other behaviors. And then in your own words, because this definition gets very technical, so I would rather you guys just tell me in your own words what it is.
So it's reinforcement given when any behavior other than the target behavior is emitted.
Correct.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. And then in Cooper, it says delivery of a potential reinforcement whenever the target behavior is not occurred during a set interval. So that is specific on a certain amount of time. Does anyone agree with that or want to clarify that?
That's what the slide that you had before is referring to.
Right, exactly.
Right, so it's given either an intermittent schedule or momentary.
Yeah, but Cooper was he breaks it down. He starts off with what is differential reinforcement, and then he goes into the DRO, DRA, DRI. So this one is specific on set time.
Right. Because it's the only way. How else are you going to give a reinforcement for other behavior? You have to, everything is a behavior outside of that target behavior. You have to do it on a time interval.
Yeah, so DRO is basically anything else other than the target behavior.
Right, and that's why it's time sensitive.
Perfect, yeah. I have a quick question that just popped into my head. What would you do if when that set amount of time is happening and the undesirable behavior just all of a sudden started? Because that happens a lot. What do you do?
Reset the timer.
Reset the timer. So start over. Perfect. Okay, because sometimes you're about to give the reinforcement and then all of a sudden the problem behavior occurs when you're about to. So we need to restart. All right, so now let's move on to DRI. So what does DRI stand for?
Differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior.
Yes, incompatible. And what is DRI? So what is incompatible behavior?
A behavior that engaging in a behavior that you cannot necessarily engage in at the same time as the target behavior.
Perfect. Okay. So that's a great explanation, but now let's look at what Cooper has to say. Reinforces a behavior that blank with what? Does anybody know the fill-in?
Reinforces a behavior that's incompatible with the problem behavior.
So it cannot occur simultaneously. So basically what you said, incompatible with the problem behavior and what? And blank following instances of the problem behavior. Okay. Well, let me just give it to you. So problem behavior and withhold reinforcement following instances of the problem behavior. All right, so I'm gonna continue. I have DRI continues. In a DRI, a behavior being differentially reinforced and the behavior on extinction are what? So we talked about DRA is on the same response class, right? So what do you think DRI is?
Incompatible.
Functional.
Different, separate, not the same
Perfect.
response class.
So mutually exclusive response class. So if you're in the exam, this is what you would look for. Exclusive response class. And then same response class will be DRA. Okay, so DRI is a subtype for what DR procedure? That explains itself. But what do you think is very similar to DRI? What other DR procedure?
DRA.
DRA.
Perfect.
DRO.
DRA. So
DRA.
DRI and DRA have a dual effect. Dual effect of weakening problem behavior and simultaneously strengthening acceptable behavior. I have to see that word because I think that's exactly what I got from Cooper. Does anybody know what that word means?
Dual.
Dual. Right. Okay. So DRI and DRA have a dual effect of weakening problem behavior and simultaneously strengthening acceptable behavior. Okay. So think about it. DRA is basically alternative behavior, and DRI is also alternative behavior. It's just incompatible. Okay. So they are extremely similar. Does anybody have any questions on that? All right, we'll move on. DRL. What does DRL stand for?
Differential reinforcement of lowering rates.
Perfect. So low rates, basically lowering rates. So what is DRL? When responses are reinforced blank, when they are lower blank. Does anybody want to explain what DRL is in their own words?
DRL is lowering behavior that occurs more, but without completely diminishing, without completely eradicating the behavior.
Okay, good job. All right, so it says when responses are reinforced, only when they are lower than the criterion, okay? And then a exam tip, I don't know if some of you remember when we first started the groups, Yenny came up with this example, and I love her example, because IRT relates to DRL, so she created this example. And it was a great way for me to remember for DRL that it relates to IRT. So even though we're decreasing the behavior, it's between one behavior and the other. So we're decreasing the IRT.
I always think a great example of this is getting phone calls from someone. Say you have a friend that frequently calls you a lot, and you want to limit their calls from maybe once an hour to like once a day. Like, you don't want to completely eliminate them from calling you, but you want to increase the amount of time in between those phone calls. So increase the IRT.
Perfect. Okay. Another example that I use a lot when I explain DRL is hand-raising behavior. So obviously a child that's very smart, that knows all the answers to all the questions, they might be raising their hand every 2 minutes. But we want to decrease that behavior to maybe every 10 minutes, because even though if he knows the answers to all the questions, we have to give others a chance to respond. So hand-raising behavior is a good example of DRL. That's only if it's very high. If it's not high, then obviously we got to do the opposite, which is...
Right. It's increasing the IRT, but decreasing the rate of the behavior.
Exactly. Well, automatically when you increase IRT, it it should decrease the rate of behavior. So then that moves on to DRH, which is basically, if you think about it, opposite from DRL. All right, so it says, what does DRH stand for? Differential reinforcement of what?
High rate behavior.
Great. And what is DRH? I have here responses blank, then a blank. But if you want to explain it in your own words, that's perfectly fine.
And it's just like what you said, it's the opposite of DRL, where DRL, you're trying to lower the behavior. Alternatively, DRH, you're trying to increase the rates of that behavior.
Right. All right. So responses higher than a predetermined criterion. So on DRL, we talked about lower than the criterion, and in DRH, it's higher than a predetermined criterion. So basically opposite from DRL is DRH. Does anybody want to give an example on DRH?
So like the hand raising that you spoke about, for a child who is not raising their hands, you want to use DRH to get them to raise their hands more. Or like the other example, a friend who doesn't call you often, you want to use DRH to make them call you, more than they are.
Perfect. And even like our meeting right now, like participation, the behavior of participating. Maybe some we can use DRH and some we can do DRL. But participation is also part of hand raising. You don't specifically have to hand raise on an online meeting, but just speaking with others and maybe chatting on the chat box is a good way to describe DRL and DRH. Okay, so we're gonna move on. DRH continue. Okay, DRH has two subtypes, just like I said about, I think I was talking about DRO, or was it?
Yes, DRO.
Yeah, DRO, yeah. Okay, so DRH has two different subtypes. Does anybody know them?
Is it DRD?
No.
Okay.
One is like a session and the other one is like full session or an interval.
Okay, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, so it's full session DRH and interval DRH. Great job. Who was that?
Claudia.
Good job, Claudia. Wonderful. All right, so look those terms up, guys. Look into that, but those are the subtypes of DRH, full session DRH and interval DRH. All right, now we're gonna move on to DRD. What does DRD stand for?
Differential reinforcement of diminishing rate.
Okay, perfect. And what is DRD?
It's pretty much the same thing as DRL. You use that to decrease behavior, except instead of using RIT, you're using rate.
Rate, perfect. Okay. So what I have here from Cooper is this schedule provides reinforcement at the blank of a, what do you think goes there?
End.
Perfect. End of a blank time interval.
Predetermined.
Nice job. When the number of responses is blank.
It's
Less
lower.
Higher.
It's lower because few.
Less than the criterion, that is gradually blank across time.
Decrease.
Great job, guys. Based on the individual's what?
Performance.
Wow. Nice job. Perfect. All right, so I have a few questions for you. These are fluency questions. What are the 6 types of differential reinforcement?
DRO.
Well, a way to remember them, just if you go high load, HILOAD, you can kind of go in order that way, if that helps.
That's a great tip. Thank you. All right, so you said high load, so go for it.
All right, so it is DRH, DRI, DRL, DRO, DRA, and DRD.
Good job. Okay, and I just a quick, I didn't want to write it on the actual slide because I'm not sure about it, but I have heard this and I see that on the task list is not there. DRD is not on the task list. So I'm not sure if that comes out on the exam. I'm pretty sure that some of you have taken the exam, but obviously don't give the information out. But focus more on knowing the difference between DRL and DRD. As long as you know the difference between them, you'll be fine, okay?
I think some of the reasons why DRD isn't discussed as much on the task list is because it does lead to sometimes a zero rate of behavior, and I guess really, you know, we're not supposed to completely get rid of, eliminate all behaviors, because usually, and I think somewhere in Cooper it talks about how for DRLs and DRHs, you're not using dangerous behaviors.
Yeah.
Like if it was a self-injurious behavior, you're not going to use a DRL. You're going to use some other procedure. So that's why they don't talk about DRD.
Yeah, differential reinforcement we're not supposed to use at all for anything that's dangerous, safety concerns, or anything like that. That's a great point that you brought up. Thank you for sharing. All right, so like Maud said, DRO, DRA, DRI, DRL, DRH, and DRD, and she used the acronym HIGH-LOAD, which is a great tip. All right, so true or false, is NCR a consequence intervention?
No.
False.
Antecedent.
False. Antecedent. Perfect. False. It is an antecedent intervention. And then what is the main difference between DRL and DRD?
DRL uses RIT and DRD uses rate.
Perfect. So I basically put IRT because it's the main thing that we got to focus on. But you're right. So I'm going to put and rate. So that's the difference. Okay. Okay, and then I have here a Jeopardy game, but I have 4 minutes. I can get it started. Okay, does anybody want to shoot out what you want to look at for Jeopardy?
DRO for 100.
The abbreviation DRO is short for?
Differential reinforcement of other behavior.
Good job, guys. All right, come on, don't take it easy. Give me some hard ones.
200, Alex.
200.
Oh, which category, Rita?
We're continuing with DRO.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, a reinforcer is delivered blank during which a given response has not occurred.
At the end of an interval?
All right, let's see if she's right. Following a period of time.
So will that be a DRO then?
Time is interval, so I think so.
Thanks.
That's okay, that's good. We're good, guys. All right, who wants to do a 500? Come on, someone.
I'll take 500, DRA.
DRA, 500. All right, you would use a DRA if the behavior is already occurring occasionally. True or false? 50-50 chance.
True.
True. I'll go true.
Does everyone agree with that? True?
True. Yeah.
True. Nice job. All right. What else?
Let's go DRA 400.
DRA 400. Perfect. What is the most common DRA?
Functional communication training.
Oh, wow. Nice job. All right. Keep going.
DRA 300.
DRA 300. When do you have to reinforce a desirable behavior at the beginning of the program?
Every response.
FI, fixed interval.
Yeah.
Or FCR, whatever. Immediately.
Immediately. Basically the same thing. Good. Perfect. Go for it. Who else?
Let's do DRH at 500.
DRA? We already got that one.
No, DRH.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is increase a behavior?
What is increase?
Oh.
DRH?
That's what I was thinking.
I'm like,
Yeah.
DRH.
Yep, DRH. All right, what else?
500 DRL, less than a minute.
The main goal of DRL.
Lowering behavior.
Lower RT.
RT.
Reduce the behavior. All right, I'm gonna log out and log back in, guys.
Same
Same link.
number? Aye.
Good job, wonderful.